Recipe entry in Simpra Inventory. In order to enter recipes in Simpra Inventory, log into the Recipes module under Cost Controls. From here, click on the Add Recipe button. There will be two types of recipes on the screen that appears. One is a normal recipe, and the other is a production recipe. Our normal recipes are the recipes that specify the stock items and quantities that will provide stock deductions in the preparation of the products to be sold in the relevant locations. If we are going to enter a recipe, we first need to write the name of our recipe. For example, spaghetti pasta. Optionally, we can define recipe number and barcode for this recipe. In the recipe group, we need to select one of the recipe groups we have previously opened. For example, pasta. Tax rate is the tax rate to be used in the sale. The sales tax rate of the product to which our recipe is linked as a sales item should be entered here so that when we enter the sales price, the system calculates the net sales price, and we can see our correct profit percentage and cost percentage. However, the tax rate and sales price we enter here will not change the POS side. They are just fields entered for calculation purposes for the profit percentage and cost percentage seen on the back side. 4%, for example. Let's enter our sales price as €7. As you can see, the system will calculate the net sales price because we enter the tax rate. In the quantity section, we specify how many servings, pieces, kilograms, or liters we will prepare the content of our recipe. For example, if we will prepare a recipe for 10 servings, it will be enough to write 10 in the quantity section. The system will automatically update the recipe portion amount to 10. Let's prepare our recipe for 1 serving. After determining our quantity, let's press the Add Recipe button. And on the screen that appears, we start entering the recipe content details. We can add stocked as well as recipe in our recipe. As stock, for example, spaghetti pasta, let's add 250 grams as the quantity. For pasta spaghetti, whose base unit is kilogram, we need to specify how many grams we will use in a serving in the stock quantity field. If there is any waste rate in this product during preparation, we can define the percentage in the waste field. For example, let's enter a waste rate of 10%. As you can see, the recipe quantity will remain as 250 grams, but 277 grams of pasta will be deducted from the stocks every time this recipe is run. In the Add Alternative Stock Regular field, which is an optional field, we specify which stock card we want to deduct from as an alternative to pasta spaghetti if the available stock amount of the pasta spaghetti product falls to 0 in the deduction store that we have determined for the sales item to which the recipe is linked. For example, let's add a stock as an alternative to pasta spaghetti. Pasta penne can be selected. And again, let's select 250 grams as the stock quantity. If we wish, we can choose the same waste rate. Let's add it to the pasta penne, and then press the Add Content button. Our pasta spaghetti stock card has been added to our recipe. By saying Show Alternatives from the More Options field, we can see our costs in the recipe content from both pasta penne cost and pasta spaghetti cost. Let's complete our recipe by adding ingredients to our spaghetti pasta recipe. Stock item salt. Quantity of stock items. This time I can write 5 and choose grams as the unit. I continue to add content. And finally, let's add our butter product. By pressing the Add Content button, we have completed the content of my recipe. If we want to change the contents of the recipe we entered, we can use the 3 dots. We can change the stock item quantity, unit, and wastage rate of our stock item in our recipe by saying Edit. However, we cannot change the stock item. For this, we can delete the stock item in the recipe content by pressing the Delete button with 3 dots. And we can enter the correct product by adding content again. And the content of our recipe has been completed. When we look at our recipe, the sales price we have determined for our recipe in the upper area is the net sales price after deducting sales tax, the cost of our recipe, the recipe cost percentage, profit, profit percentage and the cost of a corresponding portion is calculated for us. We can see the alternative stock cards and their costs that we have specified in the recipe content from the More Options field, and if a stock card in the recipe content does not have a purchase entry and there is no content cost, an estimated cost can be written from the detailed entry field defined for the stock card. For example, for salt table product, an estimated kilogram cost of €8 has been entered. When we press the calculation according to the estimated price, it will calculate and bring us the cost of €8 of salt table and the cost of the content. If we want the costs of our stock cards in the recipe content to appear according to the last purchase cost, when we press the Show According to the Last Purchase Price button, the last purchase prices of our products in our recipe content will appear. If we go back to our recipes screen, a content change can be made collectively in our recipes. For example, the business is now using tomato cherry product instead of tomato product, and we need to change the recipe content for this. In order to make this change for all recipes containing the tomato product or only for the recipes we will select, go to the Content section from the selectable area. In this field, we can bring all recipes containing the tomato product. Let's write the name of our tomato stock card. Select the recipes that we want to change the content of from the recipes that come up. For example, only our omelet recipes will be changed. After selecting the recipes, we can delete the content or change the content of this tomato. Press the Change Ingredient button. In the New Stocked field, type the product we will use instead of the tomato product. The factor value field is the multiplier field of the quantity of the product. If we leave it empty, tomato cherry will be replaced with tomato instead of tomato. But for example, we will no longer use this tomato cherry product as 50 grams, but as 250 grams in our recipes. Therefore, if we write 5 as the number of multipliers in the factor value, we will increase the recipe content to 250 grams. For example, let's write 5 as the factor value, and press the Apply button. When we come back to the content section, this time let's look at our tomato cherry product. The content of our recipes has changed to tomato cherry and updated to 250 grams.